Good day to every humans inside the auditorium. Please listen carefully to the presentation of Mr. Mark Santillan and Miss Regine Tugana. First case problem will be controls over personnel and payroll. You are considering the controls over the client's personnel and payroll activities. System documentation was accomplished with a questionnaire and a narrative memorandum hand, in conjunction with a transaction walkthrough, indicated that the following potential errors or frauds may exist. 8. Several recent hirings violated equal opportunity laws. The pay raise to employees in Department A was not approved by management. C. An unauthorized, unapproved and excessively high payback was cashed by a bona fide employee, but the check was for hours neither authorized nor worked. D. Detailed payroll records sometimes do not agree with labor summaries for payroll tax accruals and go unnoticed. E. When an employee's time record is not available, the employee obtains a new time record from an open bin outside the payroll office. Required, for each potential error or fraud, indicate a control procedures that management could implement to prevent or detect the error or fraud. Second case problem, identifying deficiencies in internal control and auditor's audit working papers include the following narrative description of a segment of the Croatian Incorporated factory payroll system and a flowchart. Narrative memorandum, internal control over personnel department is effective and is not included in accompanying flowchart. At the beginning of each work week, payroll clerk number 1 reviews the payroll department files to determine the employment status of factory employees, prepare time records, and distributes them as each individual arrives at work. The clerk verifies the identity of each pay before delivering signed checks to the factory supervisor. At the end of each work week, the supervisor distributes payroll checks for the preceding work week, reviews the current week's employee time record, notes the regular and overtime hours worked on a summary form, and initials the time records. The supervisor then delivers all time records and unclaimed payroll checks to payroll clerk number 2. Required, what are the deficiencies in internal control? And what inquiries should the auditor make to clarify whether additional deficiencies exist? Answer to the first case problem, controls over personnel and payroll. A. Management should impose policies and procedures in hiring, verify all relevant information included in employment application and maintain updated personnel records for all employees. The established written policies for pay rate adjustments and communicating the policies to the personnel department and to operating department supervisors. C. All cash disbursements for payroll should be based on a recognized liability and requiring a second manual signature for all unusual and excessive paychecks amounts. Also, a separate bank account should be maintained exclusively for payroll disbursements. Controls should limit access to blank checks and should assure that, if signed manually, checks are signed only by those authorized officials. D. Management could establish account distribution and labor cost allocation procedures and reconcile appropriate ledgers, journals, and summaries. Establish physical barriers and unused documents and forms. E. Management should have a pre-number of control forms and documents. They must maintain listings of time record and the employee must not obtain a new time record from an open bin outside the payroll office. They should also segregate responsibilities for authorizing, executing, and recording payroll and personnel transactions. Answer to the second case scenario, identifying deficiencies in internal control. 1. Unauthorized individuals has an access to documents with regards to their time record, and the preparation of paychecks must not be made for the preceding work week because it is not yet sure that those employees will comply their duties in the said work week. The summaries of detailed records such as payroll summaries and registers may not agree, which could result in miscalculated payroll or misapplied labor costs. And lastly, the personnel department responsibilities should be separated from payroll preparation, and both should be separated from cash disbursement and operating department. 2. The auditor should provide some questionnaire and a flowchart to detect the business efficiency.